Hello, my motor enthusiasts. You're tuned in to F1 Motor Fever podcast.
Hello, Enzo. What's the hot topic today?
Well, we're delving into the top 10 Formula 2 drivers of 2023 as ranked by Formula Scout.
Oh, that's certainly intriguing. Who's taken the top spot?
None other than Frederik Vesti from Denmark, who won 6 races and finished the season with a commendable 192 points.
Blimey, that's an impressive tally. And who were the other big performers?
Second place went to Theo Pourchaire, ranking first in the standings, and Australia's Jack Doohan came third, showing strong pace throughout the season.
That's quite a mix of talent. What's the fate of these drivers next season?
Interestingly, only 3 will be making the jump to Formula 1. The rest are heading to Super Formula and Formula E, or staying in Formula 2.
Changes on the horizon then. Sounds like we have a lot to dissect in this episode.
Absolutely. And we'll get into all the nitty-gritty details and the thrilling performances that got them here. Stay tuned, folks. Hey everyone, you already know me. This is your host, Enzo.
And joining him for the thrilling ride is yours truly, William Turner.
We're here same time every day on your favorite channel, F1 Motor Fever podcast. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Let's go full throttle into today's hot topic. Did you know that the driver in second place, Theo Pourchaire, became the youngest ever Formula 2 winner at just 17 years old when he won in Monaco last season?
Blimey, that's a record. And to win in Monaco, that's no easy feat.
Absolutely. In fact, Monaco has been referred to as the driver's circuit due to its tight and unforgiving street layout. It's where the skill of the driver really comes into play.
Quite right. And it's an iconic location too, isn't it?
Indeed. The Monaco Grand Prix is one of the most prestigious races in the world. It's been part of the Formula 1 World Championship since its inception in the year of 1950. It's a race that every driver dreams of winning.
So to win there at such a young age, Theo Pourchaire really marked himself as a driver to watch.
Reflecting on the last season, it's been quite an intriguing one for Formula 2. In a new turn of events, it was the first season with the Dallara F2 2018 not to have a Formula 1 graduate.
That's unusual indeed. The transition from Formula 2 to Formula 1 is typically seen as a natural progression for standout drivers.
Precisely. There's been an increase in global interest in Formula 2, thanks in part to the growing digital footprint of Formula 1. However, not seeing the favorite names from Formula 2 on the F1 grid next year could be a bit disappointing for fans.
That's the harsh reality of professional motor racing, isn't it? Teams always have the final say on who gets to drive for them.
Spot on. Of the standout performers in Formula 2 this year, 3 have secured a future move up. But surprisingly, 2 are heading to Super Formula and 1 to Formula E instead of Formula 1.
It seems like the racing world is becoming more diverse. Drivers are exploring different avenues and aren't solely fixated on Formula 1.
Exactly. Let's not forget about those who impressed us during the long 26-race campaign. Dennis Hauger, despite his lack of qualifying pace, delivered strong race performances, including 2 sprint race wins.
His teammate, Jehan Daruval's season, however, fell apart after Jeddah. It's a real shame. He was a promising talent.
True, the season was also harsh for Ralf Bosching. After appearing like a title contender in the first 3 races, his season spiraled downwards. He was unfortunately outshone by Kushmaini at Campos.
You never can predict how a season will turn out, can you?
Absolutely. It's the unpredictability that keeps us hooked. Let's take a moment to appreciate Enzo Fittipaldi. He came in 7th in the standings, scoring 124 points, including 1 win, 1 fastest lap, and 5 podiums. Despite only moving up 1 spot from his 2022 position, I see this as a steady upward trajectory.
There's merit in consistency, isn't there?
Absolutely. He may not have been one of the standout stars this season, but his performance was solid and reliable. He took his team Roden Carlin's only win, and that speaks volumes about his capability.
Yes, And considering the fact that he was outscored in feature races by only 5 drivers and was one of only 7 drivers to bag 2 podiums over a weekend, I'd say that's quite impressive.
Indeed. And let's not forget his maiden win in the series at Spa. That's a testimony to his racecraft and potential. His qualifying and finishing second in both Baku and Barcelona only adds to his credentials.
Aye, and finishing just 6 points short of Behrman is no mean feat.
It's easy to overlook the progress he has made, managing his stints and tires effectively while avoiding penalties incurred by others. While some might see his position as merely being best of the rest, I would argue there's much more to his story. The journey has just begun for Mr. Fittipaldi, and we may well witness his true potential in the coming seasons.
Quite right. It's all about staying the course and capitalizing on experience. Every race, every season contributes to their growth as a driver. Things may just be looking up for Fittipaldi.
Now, shifting our attention to Zane Maloney from Barbados. He finished 10th in the standings, with 1 fastest lap and 4 podiums to his name. However, I seem to recall him having a bit of a rough patch in the middle of the season, where he only scored points in 1 out of 9 races. Can you confirm this?
If I remember correctly, you might be right. But wouldn't it be best to call Victoria Parker to make sure?
Yes, let's do that. Hello Victoria, hope you're well. I'm discussing Zane Maloney's performance this season with our listeners. Can you confirm if there was a period where he only managed to score points in 1 out of 9 races? Really? Ah, got you. Thanks for the clarification, Victoria. Speak to you soon, hanging up now. Well, it turns out our memory served us correctly. Victoria confirmed that Maloney indeed had a phase in the middle of the season where his performance dipped dramatically. Despite that, he managed to finish in a respectable 10th position in the standings.
That's racing for you. Ups and downs are part of the journey. Maloney's resilience despite the mid-season setback is commendable.
Agreed. Now let's talk about Richard Verschoor from the Netherlands. He came in 9th in the standings with 1 win, 1 fastest lap, and 3 podiums. But there's a bit of a debate about his consistency. Some say he took points home from all but 1 round, matching Dennis Hauger's record. But is this accurate? You know what? Let's ring up Victoria again. Hey Victoria, me again. Can you confirm if Richard Verschoor scored points in all but 1 round, matching Hauger's record? Really? I see. Thanks Victoria, much appreciated. Hanging up now. So it appears there was a bit of misinformation going around. According to Victoria, Verschoor did not match Hauger's record. It's always crucial to check the facts.
Indeed. Facts are the cornerstone of any meaningful discussion, especially in racing.
Now, let's discuss Kush Maini from India, who raced with Campos Racing. He finished 11th in the standings, scoring 62 points with 1 podium to his name. He quickly adapted to F2's demands and capitalized on the improvements Campos seemed to have made at the beginning of the year. His performance faded a bit as the year went on, but he still qualified 3rd in Abu Dhabi. This spike in interest around him from Alpine, Mahindra, and even Mika Hakkinen seems justified.
So, let me get this straight. When we say someone qualifies 3rd, that means they start the race in the 3rd position, right?
Well, bless your cotton socks. Yes, that's correct. In qualifying, drivers compete to set the fastest lap time. The fastest driver starts the race from the 1st position, or pole position, the 2nd fastest from the 2nd position, and so on. I can't believe you've just asked that.
Hey, it might seem obvious to us, but we might have listeners who are new to Formula One. They could find these explanations helpful.
You have a point, but we also need to be careful not to oversimplify things too much. Otherwise, our seasoned listeners might get fed up and change the channel.
That's fair, but I think explaining the basics doesn't hurt. It might even refresh our seasoned listeners' memory or provide a new perspective. After all, even the most straightforward information can be interesting if presented in the right way.
Moving on to Ayumu Iwasa from Japan, who raced with Dams. He finished 4th in the standings with 165 points, 3 wins, 1 pole, 3 fastest laps, and 6 podiums. A strong start to the season saw him leading the driver's standings after an excellent round at Melbourne, where he claimed pole position and won the feature race. Interestingly, though, as the season progressed, Dam's qualifying performance appeared to decline, and Iwasa often found himself having to claw back positions on race day.
That's true, but it's also worth noting that despite these challenges, Iwasa remained in contention for the title until the final round. He continued to finish in the top 5 in feature races during the season's second half, even though his wins mainly came earlier in the season.
That's a great observation, and it's a testament to Iwasa's skill and tenacity. He didn't let the setbacks get to him and delivered solid performances throughout the season.
I've never really considered it that way. It's a good point to ponder. Despite facing setbacks, staying focused and delivering consistent performances is what separates the good from the great in Formula One.
Absolutely. It's about adapting to adversity and still finding ways to deliver results. That's a hallmark of a true champion. Let's move on to Victor Martins from France, who drove for RT Grand Prix. He finished 5th in the standings with 150 points, 3 wins, 3 pole positions, 6 fastest laps, and 8 podium finishes. A very impressive rookie season, wouldn't you agree, William?
I would, indeed. But could you explain a bit more about what we mean when we say rookie season?
Of course, William. A rookie season refers to a driver's first full season in a particular category or series. So in the context of Victor Martins, we're referring to his first full season in the F2 championship. Now, during his rookie season, Martins had an outstanding 12-race scoring run, and he was the fastest driver on average when it came to single-lap pace. However, he did have some struggles in the feature races.
And when we say feature races, what exactly do we mean, Enzo?
Great question, William Turner. Every F2 event consists of 2 types of races: sprint races and feature races. The feature race is longer and awards more points than the sprint race. It's also where the driver's qualifying positions determine the starting grid. Unfortunately, despite his strong qualifying performance, Martins seemed to struggle in these longer races. Now, let's delve into the performance of Ollie Bearman from Britain, who drove for Prima. This young talent ended up 6th in the standings, with 130 points, 4 wins, 3 poles, 2 fastest laps, and 5 podium finishes. He had quite an impressive rookie season, particularly with his double win in Baku. Despite some rookie errors limiting his standing, he showed great potential, and his performance even attracted the attention of Haas, who offered him F1 practice runs.
It is interesting how he displayed moments of brilliance that made him stand out, such as leading from the front at the track that favors the toe in Monza. However, it's worth mentioning that he had some weekends when he was almost unnoticeably off form.
That's very true. Consistency is key in F2, especially when impressing the F1 bosses who are looking for not just stellar moments, but overall performance. Wow. I can't help but reflect on how thrilling the world of Formula One is. The raw emotions, intense competitiveness, and adrenaline-packed races. It's quite a spectacle, isn't it? What do you think, dear listeners? Are you enjoying our deep dive into the F2 Championship? Please don't forget to hit the like button, all right? We're absolutely thrilled to bring these updates to you, and we hope you are too. Thank you so much for tuning in with us. Let's continue with our discussion. Moving on to our third-place driver, Jack Doohan from Australia, racing for Virtuosi. He finished 3rd in the standings with 168 points, 3 wins, 2 pole positions, 3 fastest laps, and 5 podium finishes. Despite battling mechanical issues during much of the season, Doohan stayed resilient and composed, eventually earning himself 3 feature race victories.
Yes, it's always inspiring to see a driver stay calm and collected under pressure, working tirelessly to overcome obstacles. I have to say though, it's interesting that despite his late season surge, he fell short of his goals due to driving mistakes at Monaco and Zandvoort feature races.
Absolutely, those mistakes were costly, but as we all know, that's part of racing. Despite this, his fighting spirit is certainly commendable. Now let's turn our attention to the champion of the season, Theo Pourchaire from France, who drove for Art Grand Prix. He finished 1st in the standings with 203 points, 1 win, 2 pole positions, 2 fastest laps, and 10 podium finishes. Pourchaire navigated the many pitfalls of modern F2 expertly, displaying a maturity beyond his years.
Indeed, It might not have been the most spectacular season, but being a strong, consistent point scorer is what ultimately won him the title. It's not always about the glitz and glamour, but the steady, reliable performances that lead to the championship.
Pourchaire's championship win raises an interesting point. Is simply winning the F2 title enough to earn an F1 opportunity, or must the driver crush the competition with multiple pole positions and wins? He certainly scored more points in feature races than anyone else, and he made it to the podium 10 times.
That's a thought-provoking question. Can you give us an example of a driver who took the latter approach to earn their F1 opportunity?
A good example would be Oscar Piastri and Felipe Drugovich. Both of them had dominant performances in their F2 seasons and made the step up to F1. However, Pourchaire's consistency is also a crucial factor. He may have only won once, but he was consistently high scoring. Now, let's talk about our second place finisher, Frederik Vesti from Denmark, who drove for Prema. He finished second in the standings with 192 points, 6 wins, 1 pole position, 1 fastest lap, and 10 podium finishes. Despite not topping the standings, he won the most races and had some impressive moments, like claiming pole at Monaco and keeping his cool to take victory after a lengthy red flag.
Certainly, Vesti had a strong season, but it seems like he had to face his share of adversity, with losing both rear wheels at Zandvoort and being pushed off at Monza, costing him strong points finishes.
Vesti's performance this season was indeed remarkable. His performance in sprint races was particularly effective, and his 3 wins in those in the second half of the year all came from the top 3 on the reversed grid. However, there were some missed opportunities in feature races. Despite the bad luck at times, it doesn't feel like an injustice that the title eluded him.
I agree. He certainly has shown that he will make an excellent professional in racing for years to come. However, one can't help but wonder if his performance was enough to earn him a spot in F1.
Indeed, Vesti's sophomore F2 season marked a significant improvement in performance and consistency. But it's also important to note that there were some hiccups along the way, like the mistakes at Spa-Francorchamps and Zandvoort, and the rushed overtake attempt on Roman Stanek at Monza. Despite these challenges, he demonstrated outstanding resilience and determination.
Absolutely. His race engineer Pedro Matos also played a crucial role in his performance this season. It leaves one wondering what could have been without him. This season has certainly been a roller coaster ride for Vesti. But as we've seen, this is what makes racing so thrilling and unpredictable.
William, what's the buzz on the World Wide Web?
Well, there's an interesting discussion going on. Sun King 1714 asks, quote, "The best driver in the last 5 years who was good enough but didn't get a chance in Formula One," unquote. He suggests it should be a driver who's been active in the junior formulas, preferably F3 and F2, in the last 5 years and hasn't made it to F1. His pick is Robert Schwartzman.
Interesting choice. What do the others say?
Let's see. Andy Copy suggests Alex Palou. He didn't shine in Europe, but since he left the F1 ladder in 2019, he's been fighting for a Super Formula Championship and has won 2 IndyCar titles.
Palou, he's been making waves in the IndyCar, hasn't he?
Absolutely. Now, there's been quite a debate about Shane van Gisbergen. Akides brings him up, and ex-Elnerd agrees, saying, quote, "I would love to see him in F1. He drives everything with full commitment," unquote.
Gisbergen, now that's a name you don't hear every day. Any other standouts?
Smart Breath 1450 brings up the past 2 decades instead of just 5 years. His picks are Alex Palou for the last 5 years and Scott Dixon for the last 15 to 20 years.
Dixon, eh? Now there's a driver who's had quite a career. Any other names in the mix?
Some users have brought up Valentino Rossi and Dario Franchitti. There's a lot of respect for their careers and a shared sentiment that they were unfortunately never able to make it to F1.
The ones that got away. Always makes for a fascinating discussion. Anything else?
Just a lot of back and forth debate and reminiscing about some great drivers over the years. It's clear that fans have a lot of passion and appreciation for these racers, whether they made it to F1 or not.
Yes, indeed. It's always intriguing to think about what might have been. But as we know, That's racing for you. And we're crossing the finish line for this episode of F1 Motor Fever podcast. We had quite a journey today, discussing the highs and lows of the racing season and the drivers who've caught our attention. Your company along this track has been invaluable. Don't forget to subscribe, activate the notifications, and bring your friends to this racing party. Sharing is indeed caring, and if you've enjoyed the ride, let us know in the comments.
Absolutely. We're here every day, giving you facts, banter, and all the F1 insight you need. If it's happening on the track, it's happening here. Up ahead, we've got some real corkers for you, so you won't want to miss out.
We're so grateful for your time and attention. We can't wait to join you again in the next episode for another lap of riveting discussions and keen observations in the world of Formula One.
Remember, folks, keep fuel in the tank, your eyes on the prize, and always come back for more of our top-notch content.
Pedal to the metal, keep your gaze on the road. Our channel's content is pure gold.